Namaste, beautiful yogis. Welcome to an intermediate to advanced Vinyasa flow class. The focus is on balancing and hip openers. Let's come to the front of our mats. Feet pointing directly forward, chin parallel to the floor, extending the tailbone down, lifting the arches of the feet, engaging the feet, engaging the quadriceps here, beginning to deepen the breath, cultivating Ujjayi breath, nice deep inhalations. And let's take a big breath in and open the arms out. Locking the hips forward. Keep your hips facing forward and turn to your right. Look back past your right hand. Twisting here, and we're gonna glide the right hand down the right leg. Open the left arm up. Look up. Find openness here. Back to center. Big breath in. And as you exhale, twist over to the opposite side. We're using the spine to twist. Hips are facing forward. And glide the left hand down the left leg. Lift and open. Planting the feet into the floor. And slowly coming out of this. Back to center. Here I'm just gonna rock side to side, allowing my arms to guide me. Twisting side to side, coming onto the tippy toes. And slowly rocking back to center. Let's lift the left leg in front of us and transition into warrior three. Bringing the left leg behind you, hips level with the floor. Hands on the floor. Take a little hop, chaturanga, upward facing dog. And you can rock your hips side to side in upward facing dog. Slowly back to chaturanga, exhale, downward facing dog. Spread the fingers wide open, lifting the tailbone as high as you can, shoulders away from the ears. Pull the belly in, draw the navel in towards the spine, and gently release your heels down towards the floor. Keep pressing into the base of each finger. And let's walk the feet towards the front of the mat. Exhale, forward bend. Looking over to your left and over to your right, making sure there is no tension in your neck. Hands on the hips, flat back, come up to standing. And let's take the right knee into the rib cage. Transition into warrior three here. Hips level with the floor. Open your chest, looking ahead of you. And let's bring the hands on the floor, hopping back into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Drop the shoulders down, lengthening through the entire back side of the body. We're stretching the front of the body here, lifting the kneecaps. And let's lift the right leg off the floor and then the left. This is challenging, so make sure your tailbone is tucked under. Back to chaturanga, exhale, downward facing dog. Keeping the ears between the triceps. Spinning the inner thighs towards the back of your room here. And let's inhale the right leg up, bend the knee, drop the foot behind you. And lower down onto your left forearm, maybe even onto your right forearm. Keep lifting through your knee here as high as you can. And release the leg back down, over to the left side, coming onto the hands. Lift Your left knee as high as you can, coming onto one forearm and maybe onto the other, and lifting here through the knee and release back down. Still onto your forearms, you're gonna walk your feet into forearm plank, touch your chin over your hands and go back. One more time, touch the chin forward to your hands and back, and again touching the chin to the hands and back, lifting using your upper body strength. Great. Let's walk the feet into downward facing dog. Come up onto your hands, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And let's come onto the tippy toes and jump in chair pose at the front of our mats. Feet facing directly forward, hands behind you, interlacing the fingers. Open the right shoulder up towards the ceiling, left shoulder up towards the ceiling. Keep your back straight, knees back, belly in. And we're gonna come onto the right leg, left knee into the chest. Warrior 3, still holding, clasping the hands behind your back. Hips level with the floor. We're working with Warrior 3s today, so be patient. Soften the front of your shoulders. Work with a gazing point in front of you on the floor. Hands on the floor, take a little hop. Chaturanga. Inhale. Upward facing dog. Back to Chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. Nice deep inhalations. Hopping into chair pose at the front of our mat. Sit back, clasp your hands behind you. Changing the clasp with the dominant finger under. Bring your chest over your legs and let your head drop here. Keep pressing the hands away from your back, softening the shoulders. Relaxing the neck. Great. Coming up. Look over the right shoulder, twisting. Over the left shoulder, twisting. Hands still pressing away from your back. Back to center. And come up to standing, right knee into the rib cage. Transition into Warrior 3. Hips are still level with the floor. Active heel. Hands on the floor. And hop into Chaturanga. Inhale. Upward facing dog, lifting the kneecaps. Tuck the tailbone under. Lengthen the back of your neck. And coming onto the top of the toes, jump forward into wide squat. Hands on the floor. Jump into chair. Feet together. Knees back. Belly in. Inhale. Coming up to standing. Arching. Back bending. Hands over the heart, prayer. Big breath in. Inhale, hands over the head. Exhale, flat back, forward bend. Inhale, look ahead of you, prepare the spine. Belly in. Hands on the floor. And jump into Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Let's lift the right leg up and into the elbow. Second time, third time, still in upward facing dog. Switching sides, left leg up, left knee into the elbow 3 times. And back into upward facing dog. Chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. Spread the fingers open. Come back to your breath. Lower the knees on the floor, coming onto the belly. Cobra, elbows in, shoulders down. Lower down. Tuck your toes under, hands underneath the shoulders. And we're going to Scorpio pose here. We're gonna bring the right leg towards the left shoulder and the left leg towards the right shoulder. It's a great spinal alignment pose. You can open the arms out to the sides and keep flipping the legs behind you side to side. See how far you can go comfortably using the flexibility of your body and of your spine. And let's bring the hands behind us, clasping, lifting the shoulders off of the mat. Lift, lift, lift. Lift the legs off the floor. Release the hands underneath your shoulders. Sit back, child's pose. Bringing a nice forward bend after all this back bending. Great. And here we're gonna come onto the belly one more time. Cobra pose. Elbows in, open the chest. Lower down, bend your knees, reach back, and grab your ankles. Dhanurasana bow pose, lifting your chest, opening the chest, freeing the shoulders, and release your hands on the floor, lifting up into downward facing dog. Coming onto the tippy toes, look ahead of you and jump into chair pose. Sit deep into your chair. Inner thighs are working here. Hands on the floor, knees as high on the triceps as you can. Crow. See if you can jump from crow back into chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Back to chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. Try to stick with your second chaturanga. Inhale, right leg comes up, open the right hip on top of the left, bend the right knee, step behind you, wow thing. Lift the hips as high as you can. Think of lengthening your lower back here, not compressing, lengthening. Great. Either stay here or see if you can work on a balancing, grabbing your right ankle with your right hand, coming into side plank, or staying in a back bend, staying in wow thing if you prefer that. Great. And you can release into side plank, plank, chaturanga, upward facing dog, back to chaturanga, and exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, the left leg comes up. Spin the left hip open, bend the knee, drop the left foot behind you, step back into wild thing. Lifting your hips as high as you can. Feel free to stay here, or you can reach behind you. See if you can find your left ankle with your left hand. Opening here and transitioning into side plank. This is quite challenging, so take your time, be patient, and if it takes more work than you anticipated, that's okay. Just keep working on it, keep coming back to it, or move forward. Upward facing dog, back to chaturanga, exhale, downward facing dog. Drawing the navel in, coming onto the tippy toes, lift your hips as high as you can and jump into chair pose. Deep chair pose, hands over the heart. Left elbow comes on the outside of the right knee. Keep your knees aligning here. Either stay here or you can extend one arm down, one up towards the ceiling. Stay here or transition into side crow. looking ahead of you. Slowly lower down, chair, coming back to center, and over to the opposite side. Right elbow, left knee, square your knees. One hand on the floor, one up. And bring the hands on the floor. Side crow. Squeezing your feet up. And slowly lower down. Back to center, chair. Inhale, hands over the head. Come up to standing, lift. Hands over the heart. We're going to bring the hands on the lower back, fingers pointing up, and begin to work your elbows in towards each other. From here, take your tailbone under, press your hips forward, and begin to bend backwards, lifting your lower back away from your fingertips and leading with your hips. Try to find a lot of space in your lower back, lifting through your heart, lifting through the sternum here, pressing the hips forward. Use your belly, come back up to standing, hands over the heart. And let's bring the left knee into the chest, transition into warrior three, standing on your right leg. And lower down, left hand on the floor, revolving, half moon pose. See if you can reach behind you, grab your ankle into a variation of half moon and variation of standing splits. Holding your ankle behind you, see if you can look over your right shoulder and release back into revolving half moon pose. Flex your foot. Hands on the floor, standing splits. And let's bring the hands on the floor and hop back into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Really try to be thorough with your upward facing dogs. Try not to move quickly through your upward facing dogs. Back to chaturanga and back into downward facing dog. Lifting the heels off the floor, look ahead of you and jump into chair. Squeezing the inner thighs towards the midline. Inhale, come up to standing. Right knee comes into the rib cage. Focus on a gazing point in front of you and transition into warrior three. Right leg behind you, level the hips with the floor, flex your foot. Let's bring the right hand on the floor, left arm spins up. Keep pressing the back heel up. Soften the belly, exhale, go a little deeper in this twist. Drop the shoulders away from you, away from the ears. Keep pressing the right heel up. Feel free to stay here, or you can bend your knee and reach back, grab your ankle or your foot and experiment with keeping your hips level with the floor or opening the hips in a variation of standing splits. And release into revolving half moon pose. Great, look down, bring your hands down on the floor, standing splits. And let's look between the hands and take a little jump back into chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Here I'm gonna stay on the top of my toes, look down and jump directly forward from here into wide squat. This is low squat here, hands on the floor, straighten the legs, forward bend, keeping the feet a little wider on the outer edges of your mat here. And let's bring the chest over one leg and then over the other leg. Exploring the flexibility of the hamstrings here. Back to center, hands underneath the shoulders, and let's jump into chair pose, feet together. Inhale, come up. And one more time, we're gonna bring the hands on the lower back. Extending the tailbone down, look down, make sure your feet are facing, pointing directly forward. Don't open your feet out so that your tailbone can be aligned properly. Lower back elongated, spine elongated, and begin to bend backward. One more time, working with the back bend here. You can bring your hands over your chest, over your heart. Keep pressing the hips forward and lengthening the lower back. You can reach behind you with your hands and slowly use your hips and belly, use your quadriceps, come up to standing, hands over the third eye. Coming back to your center, envisioning the central axis of the body here, hands over the heart. Envisioning the equilibrium of the body. Inhale, hands over the head, exhale, forward bend. Wrapping the wrists around the elbows. And you can rock side to side here. Inhale, look ahead of you, hands underneath the shoulders. Step your left leg all the way back at the back end of your mat. Lower the left knee on the floor. Keep your right knee into your shoulder. The knee is over the right ankle. And breathe here. Tuck the tailbone under. Breathe into your quadriceps, hip flexor on the left side. Breathe into your right hip. Lifting the back knee off the floor. Lunge. And we're gonna step the back foot forward and let's step the right foot back, switching, changing sides. Lower the right knee down. Breathe. Tuck your tailbone under, and even if you're very flexible, you will still feel this here without lowering your forearms on the floor. Just work with consciously extending the tailbone down. Great. Lifting the knee back up and stepping forward. Switching sides one more time. Left knee back on the floor. This time we're gonna come up, hands over the right knee. Crescent. Either stay here or you can bend your left knee and grab your left foot. Work your left foot in towards you. Skip this pose if you have knee pain, knee injuries. Otherwise, you can go into a back bend here, holding your left ankle with your left hand. Release. Hands on the floor. Right shoulder underneath the right knee. Transition into an arm balance. Lift. Bending the right knee. Straightening the right knee. Jump back. Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Roll the shoulders back and down. Look ahead of you, and we're gonna jump one more time into wide squats. Great. Take the right leg back. left knee into the left shoulder. Feel free to stay here, or you can bring your hands over your left knee. You can bend your right leg and bring the right heel in towards you. You can stay here, or you can transition into a back bend. Right hand, right foot, lifting through the sternum and release. And let's bring the hands on the floor, touch your toes under, and we're gonna lift the right knee off the floor, beginning to work the left shoulder underneath the left knee, preparing for an arm balance here. Chaturanga alignment, lifting the legs, bending the left knee, straightening the left knee, jumping into chaturanga and moving into upward facing dog. Open, lift through your heart, and back into extended puppy pose or child's pose. Palms of the hands facing each other, drop the shoulders. Before we get all too comfortable here, let's lift back up, lower down onto your belly, cobra. Drop the shoulders back and down. Elbows in, keep them slightly bent. Extend your tailbone down towards your heels. Slowly lower down onto your belly, tuck your toes under, sit back. Child's pose one more time. Come back to your breath. Look ahead of you. Come onto your belly one more time. Bend your knees, reach back, grab your ankles. Lift your legs off the floor here. Either stay here or we can work on something looking pretty funky, but it's really good for your shoulder and also gets you into moving into or working on different poses. Back to dhanurasana and over to the opposite side. Open here. It's a back bend, shoulder opener. Back to center. Hands underneath the shoulders. Sit back. Child's pose. Exhale and soften your ribcage over your knees. Drop your shoulders, soften your face, soften the jaw, soften your breath. And let's bring the hands on the floor, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Coming onto the tippy toes, look ahead of you. And jump into chair pose. Sit deep into your chair. Straighten the legs, forward bend. Inhale, look ahead of you. Hands on the floor. And jump into chaturanga, upward facing dog. Back to chaturanga. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale. Right leg comes up, roll the right hip open on top of the left. Drop the left foot behind you, wow thing. Lift your hips as high as you can. Either stay here or transition into a back bend wheel. Urdhva dhanurasana. Make sure your toes are pointing directly forward. And you can reverse the same move, coming back into a one-legged downward facing dog. Look down, bring your right shin bone on the floor, flex your foot, lift your rib cage as high as you can, lengthening here, finding a lot of space, a lot of openness, elongating the spine, lower down. Pigeon pose. We're gonna stay here for a while. So come back to your breath. Use this place as a of deepening your body consciousness, your awareness of your body, and the connection between your body and your breath. Continue breathing, inhaling and exhaling through your hip. As you exhale, imagine your hip softening, releasing, letting go. As you inhale, making sure that your spine is elongated, that your hips are level. Exhale, softening the rib cage over your leg, softening your hip. Stay connected to your breath and just observe your pigeon, your hip opening poses. Becoming a witness here rather than a doer for a few moments. Great, slowly begin to walk your hands back in towards your leg. Hands over the heart, and we're gonna bring the left elbow on the outside of that right knee. Keep your shoulders down, look over your right shoulder. Back to center. And this time we're gonna bring the right elbow on the inside of the right foot. Again, keep your shoulders down, twist. And back to center. Tuck your toes under. Take your time, go back into one-legged downward facing dog and just begin to draw circles with your right knee. Drawing really big circles here and breathe into your hip. Do whatever you feel that your body needs here. Move in ways that feel appropriate, that feel right. And let's lower back down into downward facing dog. Open the left leg up. Drop the left foot behind you, wow thing. Either stay in wow thing or you can transition into whale pose here. feet pointing directly forward. Open the chest, lifting through the chest here, opening, extending the tailbone down. Lifting your toes off the floor. Slowly coming back into one-legged downward facing dog. Look between your hands and lower your left leg in front of you. Flex your left foot here. Go as deep as you can without opening that right hip away from the floor. So you want to keep your hips level with the floor. Flex your left foot. Open, lift the rib cage away from your hips. Keep that elongation along the spine, upper body, and lower down, keeping the rib cage lifted. And stay here. Again, coming back to your breath, observing your breath, being aware and conscious of your body here, being aware of your body opening, softening. Use this place as a meditation in body awareness. And let's begin to walk the hands back in towards our leg. Hands over the heart prayer. Bringing the right elbow on the outside of the left knee back to center and over. Bringing the left elbow into the left foot here. Open the chest, look up. Back to center, hands on the floor, tuck your toes under, go back into one-legged. Downward facing dog, staying off of that left leg. Drawing circles with the left knee. This pose will greatly improve the flexibility and the openness of your hip. will help with spinal alignment. Stepping back into downward facing dog, walking in place. And let's lower the forearms on the floor, clasping the fingers here. Prepare for headstand. So make sure your elbows are shoulder width apart. You can check with your hands. Begin to walk. Once your head is on the floor, begin to walk your feet as close to you as you can. You can bring your knees into your rib cage and feel free to stay here, or you can straighten your legs coming into headstand. Keep pressing into your elbows and forearms. Belly in. Spread your toes open. Slowly lower down into child's pose, giving your neck a break. Great. And we're gonna continue into another variation of headstand here. Tripod headstand, coming into a tripod, knees over the triceps and begin to lift into headstand here. You can stay in headstand or you can experiment, come into half lotus. Lower your right shin bone onto your tripod, onto your arms, and lift off into flying pigeon to chaturanga and upward facing dog. And let's try the same thing over to the other side. Tripod headstand. Slowly lifting up into headstand, bringing the left shin bone over your arms, slowly lifting into flying pigeon and chaturanga, upward facing dog. Child's pose. Coming back to your breath. And let's lower down onto the belly. Open your arms out. And a few more times we're going to go into the scorpion pose, bringing the toes towards your hands out to the side, giving your back a nice spinal adjustment. Once you're done, lifting into cobra, shoulders back and down. Exhale. Extended puppy pose. And we're gonna come into a seated, legs in front of us. Slowly lower yourself down onto your back. Hugging the knees into the chest. You can rock side to side here, massaging the back. Let's grab the outer edges of the feet, open the knees out by the rib cage, lower down, happy baby. Pressing the knees down, This is another great hip opener. Flexing the feet, rocking side to side, massaging, pressing the lower back into the mat. And let's keep the left knee bent. Extend your right leg on the floor. Press your right heel down into the floor and keep your right hip down. Switch sides. Pressing the left heel down and pressing that right knee by the rib cage down. And release. Let's lift the chest up, lift the back of the floor, bending the right knee in, left knee in, keep the belly in, right knee comes in, feet together, left knee in, feet together. Continue with this, keeping the chest open, lifting through your belly. You can bring the hands behind the head, do 3 pulses, switch knees, do 3 pulses, switching the knees, right knee in, pulsing up from the belly here. We're not crunching, we're not bringing the neck forward, we're really lifting through the belly here. Lift up, chest open, elbows back. Good. Reach in front of you. Draw the belly in. This is gonna strengthen your abdominal wall. Really drawing the navel in, working with your mula bandha. And let's bring the right leg up, left foot on the floor, reaching up towards the toes. Same movement coming from the belly here. We're not reaching through the shoulders. And this time we're extending, reaching over the head and towards the toes. Switching sides. Reach over your head, extending the leg down, reaching up. And let's bring the heels up towards the ceiling, lifting. This is a really small move, lifting the tailbone off the floor here, lifting the heels straight up. So you're not bringing your feet over your chest or over your head. You're trying to bring them directly up. Great. Grab your big toes, lower your legs down, open your legs out, grabbing the heels, lower down. Last hamstring stretch here, grabbing one leg, bringing it over your chest or towards your forehead, switching sides. Over to the opposite side. And let's bring the knees one more time into the chest, giving ourselves a hug. Drawing circles with the knees. And slowly prepare yourself for shavasana. We made it to this place. Make yourself comfortable. Palms of the hands open up, allowing the feet to drop to the sides, allowing the shoulders to drop and relax. The back of the head is wide on the floor, the jaw is soft, inner ears softening. Keeping the tongue off the palate, allowing for the eyes to drop back into their sockets. Shifting the gaze towards the third eye. Stay here, present and aware of this very moment. Namaste.